today we are looking at Psalms 39. Psalm of David, and it's a psalm when we're dealing with all kinds of, once again, personal reflections about how I need to do better. Now, you can't do better by yourself. You're going to have to do better by invoking the will of God in your life. You need His strength, you need His direction, and you also are going to need His ability to bring purpose and an understanding to your walk. Because if you don't have purpose, then what do you have? Why are you doing this? For what reason? And you need to make sure you can understand and answer those questions. And that's what we're going to kind of look at here today. Because if you don't have a reason, guess what life becomes? Vain. It's empty. And so we got to make sure, though, that we are not going after the things that the world tells us to go after. Because those are, as we talked about in other Psalms, those are what? Dead end roads. You can travel for a long while and end up where? Nowhere. Because the road stops and it ends. And you did all that traveling, all that driving, and you ended up at a place where you can't go any further. So that's why you can't just go for the things of this world. There are some things that this world can take you on, that can drive you around for a long time, but you're going to end up in nowheresville or nowhere's land. That's why we got to follow the Lord. And that's what the Psalm's kind of touching on. And a lot of these Psalms that we're going to go through here recently and that we've already gone through deal with this same kind of concept. All right, so without any further delay, let's go ahead and get the reading in of Psalms 39. Let's take a quick listen here. Oh, you know what? It would be helpful if I put it so you can hear it. Let me just put that on real quick. There we go. That way you can hear it as well as I. All right, let's take a listen.
Psalm 39. I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence. I held my peace even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. My heart was hot within me, while I was musing the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue, Lord, make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am. Behold, thou hast made my days as an handbreadth, and mine age is as nothing before thee. Verily every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Selah. Surely every man walketh in a vain show. Surely they are disquieted in vain. He heapeth up riches, and knoweth not who shall gather them. And now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth, because thou didst it. Remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thine hand. But thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity. Thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Surely every man is vanity. Selah. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears, for I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were. O spare me, that I may recover strength, before I go hence, and be no more.
All right, there we go. All right, once again, as we stated, this is the Psalm of David. Now, one thing we can keep in mind is that David was a mighty man. He was a very intelligent and gifted individual. David has a lot of abilities. One thing you will see here, though, if you were just looking at David from the outside and you didn't have any of his writings, and you're just looking at him from the way you see him as a neighbor, you go outside, you go, hey, David, how you doing? And he was like, oh, I'm doing all right, God bless you, and then you move on about your business. You would never know, unless the Spirit of God would do what it's doing here, that he was struggling on the inside from time to time. We see other Psalms when he's rejoicing and he's just happy and he's just good and his life is just feeling wonderful and he's just so happy and proud to just be a servant of God. But then he has other moments like this one, where he's debating what's going on. You know, what am I really doing? What's my purpose? And we'll kind of get into that in a little bit more detail. But there's an overall, looking. You see him kind of questioning. I mean, okay, I know the Lord, but what's happening? What's going on? What am I supposed to do with the fact that I know who He is? Now, do we ever get that way where we're like, okay, I wake up and you know what? For some reason, I just don't know which way to go. I mean, I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm not sure what the purpose is. And if you feel lost in direction, welcome to the human race. Because that's something that everybody at some point feels. Every now and then you feel. Have you ever been driving someplace that you have always gone to, and then for some reason something just looks unfamiliar, and you're like, wait a minute, am I going the right way? And you get a little like, wait a minute, and you're trying to look for something that looks like, oh, okay, that's the store. Okay, I'm going good. I'm good. But for a moment, you were kind of like, where am I? I don't remember. I don't recognize that house. I don't recognize that corner, and because you never paid any attention to it previously, and now all of a sudden you just started paying attention at a point where you never really paid attention before, and you seem a little off until you see something else that's what? Familiar. Life is like that. You are going through life, and sometimes you're going to wake up and you're going to look around and you're going to look at your face, your own face. You're going to look at your family. You're going to go to your job, and things are just not going to seem like, what is this all about? What's the purpose? You kind of lost the familiarity of why you're doing what you're doing. And that's why we need God, because that can happen. And a lot of times when that particular confusion hits people, it can be a major issue in life. People do things, you hear people say, I never would have thought that this person would have done that. Yeah, because something came up to where they didn't feel like they were in familiar or common ground. Things seemed a little weird or a little different. And they acted a little weird or a little different. All right. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because all that I just said, we're going to pull out of these verses. So let me back up and get into the verses, and let's bring it out little bit by little bit here. All right, Psalms 39. So it starts off by saying this is a Psalm of David. And he's sending this to one of his chief musicians. And he says, I said, all right, so this is what David is saying. This is what's coming out of his own comprehension. This is what he's thinking and feeling within himself. He said, I said, I will take heed to my ways. Now, what does that mean? David is saying, I'm going to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm going to take heed. In other words, I'm going to take a look and examine why I do what I do. Okay? And that's an important thing to do. Because are you just doing it because that's what they told you to do? Right? There's certain things, well, I'm doing it because they told me to do it, and I don't want to deal with the consequences. So I'm going to do my taxes. And if I owe money, I'm going to pay it. Why? Because that's what I'm supposed to do? Yes. Also, I don't want them sending me no letters talking about they coming to get me because I didn't pay it. Okay, so there's a whole lot of motivation behind that, and nobody gets lost and nobody gets confused in that because that's easy, understandable. Those dominoes are connected together, and we know why. Okay, it's tax time. I'm going to do my taxes because either I want to get my money back or I want to go ahead and know what I owe, and I want to get done. I want to be done with the IRS. Everybody's motivated, or they should be, to get it done. Okay? Today is, for those that go to work on a regular basis and have a job, you're going to go to bed, and you're going to get to bed a little early. Why? Because I have to wake up at, wee hours of the morning. Well, why are you waking up in the wee hours of the morning? Because I have to go to work. Well, why are you going to work? Because that's my job. They hired me. We made an agreement. Well, why did you make an agreement? Because I needed some means of income. And they saw that they needed my ability, skills, and knowledge. and we agreed to this task. So I'm going to keep my end of the bargain. Real simple stuff, and people say, well, that's just makes everyday sense. Yes, it is. I'm taking heed as to my ways, why I do what I do. Because if I were to get to the point where I don't need that money anymore, I'm going to have to take heed to say, do I still want to get up and go to this job? Something might change, and maybe I don't want to go. But right now, I got to get up and I got to go. Taking heed of your ways. Why are you dealing with your children or with your grandchildren? We can go on and on and on with taking heed. Why? Because they're my children. That's my responsibility. They represent me. I want to see them do well. It makes me feel good on the inside when I see them feeling good on the inside. All of these things are taking heed to your ways. Why do you do what you do? Okay? Why do you, simple stuff. Why am I brushing my teeth? Why am I taking a shower or a bath? Why am I combing my hair? Why am I shaving my beard? Why am I doing anything I do? You can take heed and you can bring it and give an answer to it. Now, the problem comes in when you're doing something every day and you say, why am I doing this? And you get a blank answer. I don't know why. I really don't know why I'm doing this. But you've been doing this for the last 2 years. I know, but I don't understand why I'm doing it. Now, you got something to deal with. Because now you enter into something that is either vain, you're being caught into a cycle that you didn't even recognize you got caught into. All these things that when you take heed as to why you're doing what you're doing can come up with, okay, I understand why I'm doing it, but when you get to a point where you point out an activity and you say, I don't know why I do this. Now that needs to be examined. Let's keep going. I said, I will take heed to my ways. Right? We just talked about that. That I sin not with my tongue, and I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. All right. So he's taking heed to his ways, and what he's saying is, I want to make sure that when I'm dealing with the wicked, I don't sin. He says, that I sin not with my tongue, I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. So, a couple of things. He says, and you reverse that. So when I got to deal with wicked people, now, you say, well, when does somebody got to deal with wicked people? You may have to deal with wicked people when you go to work. You may have to deal with wicked people when you wake up in the morning and look at the person next to you. Not everybody is dealing with wonderful situations in their household. Some people got some bad situations. But what David said, that when I deal with these wicked people, and then he mentioned what he was not going to do first, and then he described the people to whom he's not going to allow them to make him do it. It's the wicked that's going to keep me to not sin with my tongue or my mouth. I'm going to keep my mouth bright. In other words, I'm going to keep my mouth what? Shut. Okay? And so then you go back to the very first thing, is he's taking heed how I'm going to actually deal with what? With wicked folks. I'm going to pay attention to wicked folks and take heed how I interact with them. All right? He keeps going. And he says, verse 2, I was dumb with silence. I held my peace even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. Now, we see a couple of things here that we want to point out. Number one, how you doing, Calvin? We're in Psalms 39. We're on verse 2. Number one, this statement of he kept his silence while he was dealing with the wicked folks, it's also reminiscence of who? Who kept quiet while wicked people were bothering him? Jesus. It said he opened not his mouth. he was being whipped and beat and spit upon. They pulled his beard. They hit him with a whip. They did all kinds of stuff. The wicked people were doing all that to him. And he made his mind up, I'm not going to sin or do anything retaliatory to them. But he did that for who? For us. All right. Now David is examining his life when he deals with it. And he's saying that's actually a very outstanding way to deal with wicked folks. All right? It's not the only way. But it is one very good way. There are some other ways to deal with wicked folks. All right? But then there's a time when you just want to say, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything to these folks. I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to allow myself to be dumb. Why? Because I'm taking heed of my ways. I don't want to sin. All right? And I want to keep my peace, do good, and not stir up any strife. All right? All right, so then he goes on, and verse 3, look what he says. My heart was hot within me while I was musing, the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue. Okay. Look at verse 3. Verse 3 says, while he was doing this, he was considering his ways, and he has to deal with wicked people. He's been keeping silent, but inwardly, he had something to say. Inwardly, he knew that I could tell you a thing or two. And it was to the point where it was hot within him. And I'm reminded of the prophet who? Jeremiah. When Jeremiah said, you know what, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm not going to tell anybody else about the goodness of God. I'm going to keep it to myself. They can burn and go. I don't care about these folks anymore. Jeremiah said, I know about God, and I don't need to tell anybody else that may not want to know. And what did he end up saying?
It's like fire.
It's like fire. I couldn't keep it. I couldn't hold it. I had to come out and tell them. And sometimes you can look at wicked people and you be like, you know what? You can go ahead and be wicked. Just go ahead. But sometimes, like in verse 3 here, it's like a fire. And it was burning for him to muse. In other words, for him to keep mute, for him to stay silent, was burning. And then, so here's David in a situation where he was considering his ways. He was thinking about things. And he said, I'm going to keep quiet. But he couldn't do it. He said, I'm going to keep my peace. I'm not going to open my mouth. Because I know I'm dealing with wicked people. But he couldn't do it. It didn't last. He ended up having to speak. And it says, then spake I with my tongue. But he just got finished saying, I don't want to sin with my tongue. I don't want to say anything. And sometimes it's just difficult. And so this is that whole concept of, why? Well, when you consider your ways and you say, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do anything. But then when you start considering your ways, you end up doing something anyway. But I said I wasn't going to do that. I said I wasn't going to get angry with them, and you end up angry with them. I said I wasn't going to do something, and you end up doing it anyway. So you can consider your ways all day long. It don't matter how often you may say something. The bottom line is, what did you do? All right? What did you say? All right. Let me just mute Calvin here a little bit. And so that's an important concept to keep in mind. We struggle with what we want to do with what we actually do. There's a lot of things I feel like I want to do. I want to be able to do this and say that, and then you go to what you actually do. I mean, you see people all day long talking about, well, I'm going to be polite to this person, or I'm going to keep my diet, or I'm not going to eat no pork. And why are you talking about you're not going to eat no pork? You sitting there cooking your bacon. So it's just it's all kinds of stuff that people say they ain't going to do, but they don't hold on to it. Why? Because that's how we are. And so once again, what this is doing is showing us. Consider your ways. Think about how you do things. And you try to set forth, this is what I'm going to do. This sounds like the right thing to do. And we end up sometimes not able to hang on or to do what we said we're going to do. Now, why is this all back and forth? Well, what's happening here? Well, let's go to the very first two words. What is this? David said, I said. This is what David said. The Lord didn't tell him this. This is his confession. And he's just admitting to himself and to us, I'm all over the place sometimes. But we would not know that if he was our neighbor and all we knew was how he just showed us the outward. This is the mask being taken off. See, we all show everybody the wonderful stuff of how we are, and you can see, oh, he seems so nice, and he seems so intelligent, and she seems so sweet and all that. But then, we know how we are. We know how we can be. All right? And so, do you want to meet your own self when you're mad at you? You know how scary you can be. You know how you can tell somebody off. You know how you can put somebody give somebody the cold shoulder. You know how you can be. So consider your ways. Consider what you're doing. Think about it. Take heed. But let's keep going. Verse 4. Lord, now he's talking to the Lord. Make me to know my end. See, now he done already got into that up and down situation, but now he's going where he needs to go. Lord, help me to find out my end, because I'm trying to do one thing and end up doing another. He said, Lord, make me to know my end and the measure of my days. What am I really doing? What am I really accomplishing? Because a lot of things I'm thinking I'm trying to do, I just don't do. And things I had no plan on doing, no idea of doing, I end up doing. Let's keep going. What is it that I may know how frail I am? Look at him saying, look at how, I need to really get a glimpse of how frail I am. Because I will sit here all day long. It's like this thing, where's this thing? Let me get this over here. Let me show y'all something here. See this right here? It's been sitting in my house for like 3 days. I have made up my mind it's not going to make it through the night. It's done. All right? It's been sitting up here on this dining room table, and it's a big old piece of chocolate that I ain't got no business really eating all this chocolate. But you know what? I done told myself it's done. I'm going to get rid of this thing. I'm going to start with it tonight. Why? Because I'm frail. There's no health value at all to this Snickers bar. There's nothing. I'm not going to eat this Snickers bar and go, ooh, I'm doing my body real good. But my frail mind, before I got on this call, when I had to move this out the way to put my computer here, I said, this is not making it through the night. Why am I making that decision? Because I'm frail. I'm frail. Right? And so how many times do we go through stuff like that? Right? It ain't got no big, it ain't got no, it ain't no heaven or earth situation, but it's just that those little things that you know. Right? And then I said, who bought this Snickers bar in the house in the first place? He said, now I want to go and what? Deflect the frustration to somebody else. So, but that's all that, and we can laugh at it. You know why we laugh at it? Because we're all like that. We all like that. You sit there and talk about, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna have one pancake. After you done had 4 of them, you're like, oh, you know what? I think I better stop. Why? Okay? That's just how we are. That's how we are. And David is saying, I'm frail. In other words, I'm fragile. I'm broken. I can break my circumstances and situations at any point in time. I'm very fragile. All right? Let's keep going. And you know what? Let me support. We're going to get going in a minute, but let me just say this. I appreciate the Spirit of God that will take an individual who God already had said, this guy is good. He's talking about David. He said, David is a man after my own heart. And then we'll say, now, I'm also going to show you how he really is. Because I want you to be able to understand, just like I'm showing you how David is, and I know him like that, And I still see him as a man after God's own heart. That messed up stuff that you get yourself entangled with in your brain and in your mind and all that stuff that you try to fight and battle and all that stuff, I still see you as my child. Even though you struggled with your conversation, your frustration, I'm good today, I want to quit tomorrow, I'm here now, I don't want to be here, I'm friends, I don't want to see you. We go through all that stuff, and God is trying to get us to see through his word. That's nothing new. The scripture says there's nothing new under the sun. What you struggle with, people have struggled with before. And that's the beauty of these books, especially the poetic books, Job and Psalms and Proverbs. All these books bring out the emotional struggles that we have as human beings. Inward thinking, inward stuff. The stuff that we don't tell, the stuff that we cover over and mask. All right? These books, if we read them right, it will bring it out and help us to say, okay, all right, Lord, you know me better than I know myself, because I've been like this too. All right, now let's move along. This is David here, once again. And he goes, verse 5. Behold, thou hast made my days as a handbreadth. Now, what does that mean? And all in all, my days are what? Short. Now, I'm not going to be here 5,000 years, not on this earth in this natural body. I'm not going to be here that long. I mean, how old is America? America's not even 300 years old. All right? So, I mean, that's not a long time. And yet, look at all the stuff America has gone through. But it's just still, it's what? It's just a handbreadth. It's short. And then look at our life. We're here, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, somewhere around there. And we've moved on. So he's recognizing, Lord, and all that you're dealing with and all that you have done, and this Bible covers thousands and thousands of years, and our lifespan is, 70, 80, 90 years. And he says, it's just a handbreadth. And he says, and my age is as nothing before thee. My age doesn't amount to anything. Well, I've been here, 60 years. I got 60 years of experience. And the Lord's like, so? Right? There's still things you don't even know about yourself. How can you think you know so much about what's going on in the world or what's going on in the heart and mind of the Lord himself? He goes on. He says, verily every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Oh, man. Now that's David telling the truth. He comes to the conclusion that every man in his best state is vanity. Now, what does that mean? That means if that's the only thing you're trying to reach, I want to become the best I can be, then you're going to end up being vain. Because once you reach it, then what? You go back to the other aspect. Now consider your day. You done got here. Now what? What you going to do now? All right? It's like when you win the championship. You won the championship. What you going to do now? And somebody say, well, you're going to keep winning. I'm going to win another one. Okay. Let's say you do that. Let's say you are Michael Jordan. And you win 6 championships. What next? Because at some point, when he went to the Washington Wizards, he couldn't win anymore. Why? Because he got what? Old. Because life is but a handbreadth. And everything ends up eventually becoming what? Vanity. You can't maintain anything in its best state. You can't do it. I don't care how good you get something, it can't stay in its best state. You can say, let me go find the best photograph that has been ever taken of me. Well, guess what? I don't look like that today. I don't care which picture you get. You can get one from high school. You can get one from when I was in my young 20s or 30s. I don't care what. I don't look like that today. And guess what? Neither do you. Nobody does. Okay, let's get the one when I was the strongest. Well, I'm not that strong today. All right. So the only thing you can look at is go, no matter how good, no matter what my best state is, it's vanity because it doesn't last. So then, what does that mean? It means that there is nothing that lasts unless you are walking with who? With the Lord. That's the only thing that lasts. That's the only thing that can be as good today and be better tomorrow and be better the next day. That's the only thing that we can deal with in life that has that promise. Everything else is vanity. It will have its point where it reaches something that you go, wow, look at this. And then it will let you down. Okay? Mr. Smith, you remember back in the early 90s when the Cowboys was winning. And they got Emmitt Smith, they got Troy Aikman. They are doing their thing, man. And they were winning year after year. And then guess what? They don't win anymore. And right now, they can't seem to do anything correct. Even when they're doing good, they're doing bad.
Yeah.
Why? Because everything's like that. Your sports, what about your job? Oh, my job was this, my job. You're going to have that point where your job was the best it has ever been. But guess what? Once it hits the best it's ever been, guess where it's going from that point? It's going down. So when you look at that, and what are we doing? We're considering, we're taking heed of all this stuff. And I'm not saying all that to make people feel, well, man, I'm getting depressed now. No, don't get depressed. We're analyzing and looking at how things are. And it's okay. That's life. All right? And so what you do is you say, I got to find out then, is there anything that has eternity and continuous growth? Yes. One thing, your relationship with the Lord. Okay? And so he goes on. Let's keep going. He said, let me just read 5 again. He says, behold, thou hast made my days as a handbreadth, and my age is nothing before thee. Verily, every man at his best state, it is altogether vanity. Selah. All right. In other words, he said, stop, ponder, and consider that. Then he goes on, verse 6. Surely every man walketh in a vain show. So no matter where you're walking, I'm walking on good street, easy street, bad street, whatever street you're on, it's something that doesn't amount to eternity. It doesn't go on forever. So if you're healthy, it's not going to go on forever. If you're sick, it's not going to go on forever. If you're in pain, it's not going to go on forever. If you're feeling great, it's not going to go on forever. It doesn't matter whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And you can find comfort in God in either state. If it's a good thing, you can say, well, Lord, I thank you for allowing me to experience that. I know that this is not the eternity that's promised. I'll enjoy it while I have it, but I know it won't stay forever. And that's an acknowledgement and a thanks to God. You can also deal with that with the pain. Lord, I got pain. I thank you that you're carrying me through it, but I'm also praising you because I know it won't last forever. I will be free from this. I won't bring this with me in eternity. So that's something that has no vanity. God's promises are eternal. And that's the beauty of walking with the Lord. Surely every man walketh in a vain show. And he goes on. Surely they are disquieted in vain. In other words, I recognize that in my inner being, I feel the frustration that I'm not going to be able to keep all that I've acquired. I feel in my frustration that I haven't reached what I wanted to reach. Or I reached it and I can't maintain it. Or I've been trying and I never got there. Or I got there, then I lost it. It don't matter how you mix that up. It's still vain. Now, when we get to the Psalms of Solomon, this particular theme, this particular thinking, we're going to do a whole book on just that thinking, on how, if you are focused on this world and how wonderful you think it is here, you are going to get heartbroken. And that's coming from a man, Solomon, David's son, that had all the riches and all the wisdom that you could ask for. And he still recognized there's nothing here on this earth that's really worth committing to other than God. Okay? And so you can say, well, I had great things. I had a great marriage. Well, that's good. But when you have a great marriage, what do? You thank God, because you know that at some point somebody is going to move on, either through sickness or death, or whatever. So that's the taking heed of it. You enjoy and thank God for the good, and you lean and trust and let God carry you through the difficulties. But either way, what's the common denominator? Leaning on God. See, when you got good, don't lean on the good. All right? Because the good is not eternity. The good is vain too. It will stop. All right, let's keep going. Some people don't believe that. Some people think, oh, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to be rich and everything's going to be fine. Well, let's look at this next point here. He heapeth up riches and knoweth not who shall gather them. Now, look what David is saying. David's saying you can get a person that just heaps up riches. In other words, he becomes a millionaire. But look what he says. But knoweth not who shall gather them. And what does that mean? Even when you become a millionaire, that don't mean you're going to live forever. Your millions that you got in the bank will eventually go to somebody else.
That's for sure.
And so it don't matter. Right? I done built me a wonderful life, and that's fine. But you still got to deal with the fact that you're going to leave it. Why? Because all that you have produced is vain. It's not eternal. It doesn't carry and it doesn't spin in eternity. All right. And once again, this taking heed is not to make you feel depressed about anything that you accomplished, or to feel, well, can I feel a little satisfaction for doing something well? Yes, of course you feel satisfaction for doing something well, for making good decisions. But your satisfaction is in the fact that God has blessed you. You have to lean on God in the good. Otherwise, the thing that you're leaning on will let you down at some point. God will never let you down. Let's keep going. Verse 7. And now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee. There he goes. He said, Lord, what am I waiting for? What am I trying to do? What am I looking around to understand? My hope is in thee. That is so key. Because see, when your hope is in the Lord, you don't lose the focus. You don't lose the attraction. It never stops becoming beautiful or alluring, because it never diminishes. Because God is always going to be God. All right? He's the Alpha and Omega. He's the first and the last. He's always going to be God. So you can always look to him, and he will always be who he say he is. Let's keep going. He says in verse 8, deliver me from all my transgressions, make me not the reproach of the foolish. So look at this. Now, you say, now what is David talking about his transgressions? He's considering his ways. And he's saying, like how we say, we can get caught up, man, in all kinds of stuff. You ever see young people in love? Young people in love is, and if you think back, remember back when you thought that guy or that girl was all that? They could be the worst. They could be having like the worst day, looking bad. if you in love, you don't see any of that. You don't see any of it. They could be, well, he didn't brush his teeth, his breath stink, and you don't smell nothing. Why? Because you in love. And what does love do? It distorts. And people do that, and they get in love, and then boom, 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 they say, you know, they done got married. And after the love is gone down to normal, then reality is looking them square in the face. Oh, wait a minute. He don't get up and go to work every day. Oh, she don't cook or clean anything? See, you didn't see any of that when you was in love. But now you trying to deal with reality, and now it's like, wow, I done made a few mistakes here. I didn't do the right thing, or maybe I didn't pay attention, or I didn't listen to my mom or my dad or my friends or my girlfriend or my boyfriend that told me that you need to be careful with that guy or that girl. You done made your decision. Now you're dealing with your own what? Decisions. David calls them his transgressions. My decisions. And sometimes I can be foolish. Why? Because you get caught up. Okay? So you can get caught up in a job. Oh, this job just said they're going to pay me, $100,000. I'm caught up in it. Ooh, I'm doing all this. And after a while, you start looking and you go, wow, I mean, they act like they own me. Well, when they had you sign that contract and you read the bottom line, they said, we're going to pay you $100,000, but we're going to tell you where to go, where to sleep, who to be with, where to eat, and everything. Well, that's like they own me. Well, that's the way it is. But then you get awoken to it, and the $100,000 don't mean as much as it did when you first signed the contract. Okay? Foolish decisions. We've all done it. We've all been there. All right? Right here. See? The Snickers, foolish decision. All right? But we've been there. All right? So, what do? Lord help me. All right? Now, one thing I'm not going to do, I'm going to be honest with you. When I get ready to eat the Snickers bar, I'm not going to pray and ask God to bless it. I'm not going to ask God to bless this mess. It's my foolish decision that I done already made my mind for. I'm not going to say, oh God, bless the Snickers for the good of my body. That's not happening. I'm just going to eat it and take the punishment. I ain't saying no prayer over that Snickers bar. I'm just going to eat it. All right? Now why? Because I recognize I done got caught up in my ways. Let me read verse 9. That'll help elaborate a little bit more. Look what it says. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth because thou didst it. In other words, I ain't got nothing to say. I'm going to keep my mouth quiet. I'm not going to say any prayer. I'm just going to eat the Snickers. And I'll deal with all the repercussions later. Okay? Let's move on. Now, I'm being playful with the Snickers bar, but how many times have we just said, you know what? I'm just going to do this. And we just get ourselves kind of going. I'm just going to... And then later on, we go, okay. I admit, Lord, I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, half hour later.
That's it. Help me. I'm sorry. I'm not leaving God. I'm not leaving you, but I'm caught up in my own decisions. I'm caught up in my own way right now. I'm feeling myself. You know that old phrase you say you feeling yourself? Back in the day, they used to say you're smelling. You're smelling yourself.
Yeah, you're smelling yourself.
All right. And sometimes we get like that even with God.
Yeah, just like today when I was at the doctor's office. She said, well, you need to quit smoking. I said, yeah, I've heard that all my life.
Yep.
So she said, you gonna quit? I said, no. I said, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I'm gonna quit as soon as I get to my house, like my cigar.
Yep.
Because that's what I was doing. Oh yeah, I'm gonna quit as soon as I get in the house to light a cigar. And I told, like I was telling my cousin, it's easy to quit smoking when you're in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about cigarettes.
Yep.
You don't, because you can't buy none. You can't ask a roommate, does he have one? You can't go down the hall and get one from nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't think about a cigarette.
That's right.
But as soon as they put me in that bed, bringing me home, I said, I gotta pack it home.
That's right. That's right. And that's how it is. Because why? When you sit there and you're there, it's like, I would not be eating this if this wasn't sitting on my dining room table. It's there. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about all that good nougat and caramel. We're gonna deal with it. But my point in
my
bring,
mind would tell me, well, the peanuts are good for you.
Right? Yeah. I got a little bit of protein.
Yeah, a little bit of protein in there. Yeah.
So, but I'm saying that because every day when we consider our ways, when we, as the very first verse said, take heed to my ways. Be honest and tell yourself who you are. Because that's what God already sees. He already knows that. And don't try to be what you're not, because God sees through the mask. He knows what you're dealing with and how you're struggling. So share with him. Tell God. All right? And then he says in verse 10, he said, remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thy hand. Now, what does that mean? That means that you have to recognize that if God sees the need, he will hit you with a blow of correction. Okay? Now, where does that come from? It comes from the Lord saying, I need you to think and take heed as to what you just did. Now, I think God, if you know, I'm making the joke with the Snickers, but you know, I've been fortunate and blessed. Right now, I don't have any like sugar diabetes or anything. However, if I had sugar diabetes or something, this wouldn't be a playful thing. This could be a thing of more seriousness. So then I'd have to be like, okay, no, I need to put this in the garbage. Now, for instance, there's another bowl over here, and it's got chocolate in it, and it's got almonds and pecans and stuff in it. Now, I'm allergic, highly allergic to pecans, somewhat allergic to almonds. All right? But I'm not allergic to peanuts or pistachios. But if I got, which is kind of weird, right? Most people are allergic to peanuts.
Yeah, if you're allergic to a nut, you're allergic to all of them.
That's right. But I can eat peanuts, but I cannot eat a pecan. If I was to eat a pecan, then I'd be in trouble. My throat would swell up, and So you got to know, okay, are there levels to this? Yes, there are. Okay, I mean, because you can be foolish. You husband and wife, y'all can be foolish and get into an argument. All right, and that's just okay. That's just normal up and down stuff. Somebody doing or saying the wrong thing every now and then. Like eating a Snickers bar. You should have left it alone, but you didn't. You went there. Versus, I'm going to get a stick and hit her, or I'm going to get a gun and shoot him. That's another level. Okay? I'm gonna cuss him out and hit him with my hand, with my fist. That's another level. You see? Versus the everyday up and down transgressions that we do by saying something that we ain't got no business saying, and then later on you can say I'm sorry. All right? But it's hard to say sorry to somebody after you done shot them to death. All right? So those are different levels. And so what we're dealing with here is the level of which David is saying, I see my folly. He's not talking about I done killed somebody or I done, did some damage. He's talking about that everyday considering my ways stuff that it's been foolish. Every now and then I do something that's, I probably shouldn't have done it. Okay. And I know the real only person that can really appreciate how off I was for making that decision or saying that is God. Because everybody else, I can put the mask on. They'll never know it. They'll never see it. So it's important that we take that in consideration.
Wayne, I have something to say.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have, tell all the congregation, I have a mask on me because I was in a hospital when we had the snowstorm. I got a fractured hand. I'm in a cast. I'll show you it. I'm in a cast right now. It's my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought I seen that Sunday.
Yeah, and like I said, my husband moved his dad in, and I really had a heart attack, and I didn't know. I went out Friday, like I said, I was going to go visit my aunt to get her on Zoom and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They be very upset of the condition that I am. I'm leaving this week to go see my daughter, and a lot of my family members I didn't tell because I knew how they would be. Like I said, I had 7 brothers, and certain ones I cannot tell what's going on. So I just said I'll leave it into God's hands because he moved his dad in, and I'm trying to ask him, can he try to get a nurse for him because it took me to a bad situation. So this that's why I couldn't come to the Bible studies Wednesday because I was I'm on this high medicine. I thank God I went back Valentine's Day. I got a new cast on. I don't have to get surgery, but I told my doctor. I mean, like I said, a lot of my doctors they retired because of the COVID. They have their private companies. They resigned. I had some doctors that had died. I didn't tell y'all that. But I told my doctor that I found him. It's like 10 years. Thank the Lord. I mean, I just asked God, I went on email. I mean, when you have good doctors and you can't find them and you see them 5 or 6 years and then you call the numbers and the numbers is different, but I got him. And I just say, just keep me in prayer because my daughter is very, very, very upset. So I'm going to go see her this week. I'll be back. I will still be on the Zoom when I'm down there. I'm going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to celebrate with her. She wanted me to come down there to celebrate and take me out and stuff like that. But when I come back, I think they're going to take the cast off. I got to go into another cast. I got to go to therapy and everything like that. The 18th, I got to go to a cardiac. I got to go about my heart.
Right.
And my aunt is very upset about that. So I just hope when I come back that he should have a nurse for his dad.
Well, Mary, we're definitely going to be praying for you, but I definitely get it. And I know what you're talking about. I mean, we all put that mask on of saying it's right to help people. And she's trying to do what's right. I got family members that's coming in. They need to stay with us. And the right thing to do is to say, let them come on and stay with us. And that's and even deep down when you're like, I wish they didn't have to be here. But the right thing to do is for them to be here. But now here's I'm going to use Mary as a situation here. That's going to add extra work for me, extra strain on me. I got to take care of this and handle this. And so your effort mind is saying, I don't want this. But your mind of what's right saying, but when a family member needs someplace to go, they should come here. So therein is this, which one do you put on? Which mask do you wear? Which face do you present? Which attitude do you walk with every day? I'm glad I'm able to help you, or you are a extra work, or use the word, a burden to my day. And you don't want nobody to hear. You don't want to tell nobody they make your day heavier.
Well, I see what Mary's talking about. Was like when my sister Pauline, my mother didn't want to go on dialysis. My sister Pauline talked her into going on dialysis. So she told my mother, she said, don't worry about it. I do everything that needs to be done. And it was fine. It was fine for a while. She did that real good. Then when it got to be too much for her, she started calling my sister Oyby down in South Carolina, talking about me and Barbara wasn't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you never came to me and Barbara and asked us for help.
Right.
So she kept calling noisy. She kept calling noisy. She kept calling noisy. She kept calling. But she never asked me and Barbara to help.
Yeah. That's it.
So, Orgy called us and said, why ain't y'all helping Pauline? Pauline didn't ask, told us she needed any help.
Exactly. What's it?
You know?
Those
so,
are. Yeah, go
so
ahead.
Barbara, you know, she's sweet when until she gets in the mood. So she said, I'm not going to say nothing to Pauline. I said, well, I am. I said, because if you wanted to help Mommy, you should have said something.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother had to be woke up at 4:30 in the morning, 3 days a week. So I told Pauline, I said, I'll wake Mommy up on those days. I said, don't worry about it, I got it. So I had to put in my phone those days. I would be trying to call my mother, line busy, line busy, line busy, line busy. When I got through, I said, Mommy, what was wrong with the phone? Oh, I was talking to Pauline. So I told Pauline, I said, Pauline, if you're going to keep calling Mommy on those days, I can go back to bed. I don't have to get up at 4:30.
Consider your ways, right? Take heed.
Right.
Take heed.
Yeah, so then when my mother got to the point where somebody had to be with her all the time, I had to move in with her.
Yeah.
Pauline's doing the same thing. Here, me and Mommy is sitting there. I'm getting our breakfast together. All of a sudden, the phone rings. Oh, Mother, you up? I said, Pauline, what you calling in for? You know I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
But those are the things that we deal with on a regular basis. That's life. And the struggles. And so it's like, well, which one are you going to do? Are you going to complain about what people are doing, or are you going to ask people for help?
Right.
Which one are we going to go down? But that's the whole thing of why we should take heed to how we do things, because we don't do them right all the time. And it's important to recognize that, yes, I could do things a little better. Let me see how. And we go to God. And that just brings relationships better. But the bottom line is, no matter how it's going, you try to maintain it, because eventually it's all vanity anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to end anyway. So look at how David finishes this. He says, when thou rebuke doesn't correct man for iniquities, thou maketh his beauty to consume away like a moth. In other words, if you don't listen to the rebuke of God, you begin to disintegrate faster. It says, surely every man is vanity. Selah. Think about that. All right? You are not going to be here forever. Consider that. It's all vanity. Let's continue. Look at verse 12. Hear my prayer. This is the most important thing. Now, all that he said before was his confession. This is what I struggle with, God. I'm trying to do what's right and everything. But he said, hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. I know I'm foolish and self-willed and make transgressions and, try to say I'm going to do one thing and end up doing another. Hear my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears. And sometimes it can, you can do things that is heartbreaking. I gave the example of husbands and wives. Sometimes they say foolish stuff to each other, and they begin to, you shed some tears because I shouldn't have hurt her. She's a sweet person, and that's why you married her, because you love her, and vice versa. That's why she married you, because she cares. She shouldn't have said that to you. Or my kids are this, and I shouldn't have said that. And you begin to shed your tears. But if you're shedding your tears and you're going to God, you're in the right place. For I am a stranger with thee. Look at this. Lord, when it comes down to me knowing myself compared to you, I'm like a stranger. I'm a stranger. I don't know sometimes. I say I'm going to do one thing and don't do it. Who am I? Why do I do anything? And a sojourner as all my fathers were. Now that is so true. Because I don't care where you are, you're not going to be there forever. You are a sojourner. You are traveling through this world. On to the next. And he finishes up. He says, oh, spare me that I may recover strength. I need to get back what I have wasted before I go hence and be no more. Can I get my strength back before my days end and I end up leaving this place going into eternity? So in other words, can I correct what I should correct? Do I need to make an apology? Do I need to say I'm sorry? Do I need to give back? Do I need to help? Do I need to acknowledge? Do I need to let somebody know that did me wrong, I'm okay in spite of it? Because I've been leaning on God, even though you tried to do me dirty. David said, Joseph had to say that to his brothers. Y'all sold me off as a slave, but God meant it for good. You did it for evil, but God meant it for good. Can I just be okay with that and be thankful that I know God in the midst of all my other confusion? And that's the beauty of what this psalm is trying to teach us here. And so many points in here where it says Selah. And I will close by saying Selah. Ponder, think, and consider that. And then you say, consider what? Go back to the very first verse. I will take heed of my ways. Think about what you do, why you do it, and see what you come up with. You'd be surprised sometimes if you dig into it. That a lot of it has to do with, I'm just trying to do what works out for me, which is not a bad thing, but sometimes you got to do what works out for somebody else. You know, that's what God does. He so loved the world that he gave his only life. And while we were yet sinners, he died what? For us. That's the nature. So sometimes we look at why we do all this stuff. Consider your ways. How much of our ways is selfish and self-serving? And can we do better? But no matter what you decide to do, no matter how good you do it, the bottom line is your walk with God is the only thing that's not in vain. Everything else, you do it, and you got to do it in the name of the Lord. Right? Because only what you do for Christ will what? Will last. All right. We're going to stop there. Any other comments or questions on what we talked about today? This was...
Yeah, I'd just like to say to everyone,